Starry-eyed rumblings.
I appear right behind Frizzy and I am not even sure what I'm about to do, and too late. Bang! Oh! I'll tell you one thing that's not scruffy is how quick she is. She struck me right in the throat. Ha! And once more, they weren't expecting a military-grade galactic gen suit. Oh, I hit the wall. Ah! And as I fall to the ground, I can see in Frizzy's eyes that she's got me right where she wants me. As I struggle to maintain balance and begin to fall to the floor, I see my doom. And then I see my salvation as Swordfish jumps out the door and plunk. Both the murderer and I clatter to the ground, but only one of us get back up. That's me. I gather myself, pick myself up, while Swordfish immediately starts dragging the murderer into the room that she was ensconced and hiding in. I stand, not really sure what to do. I do spot the cloth that the liquid was poured onto by the murderer, and I tentatively, keeping a reasonable distance away from it, look at it. Lightner, do not touch the cloth or get any closer to it. I will deal with it. I do as Swordfish says, and I remain where I am as she comes over, pulls out some sort of leathery material and wraps the cloth in it, then walks back into the room. I follow. The room is an office. Don't really pay much attention to the interior, because what does have my attention is the murderer unconscious and tied up on a chair in the middle of the room. Swordfish seems busy dealing with the cloth situation over to one side, so I move tentatively over to the murderer. I begin to sift through the pockets of the murderer, and there's a lot of them. Pockets, that is. Loads on the combat pants, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the sleeveless jacket. And wow, I am impressed. There is so much stuff in these pockets. I wouldn't even imagine that you could fit this much on one person. Tons of paper, this plastic bag with some slightly glowy green powder in it. Yeah, used tissue paper. And the one thing that really does catch my eye though is a device. Not so much the device. The device itself is pretty standard, maybe a slightly higher end model of a standard comms device. However, what I do find curious is that the phone is unlocked and that there is a gazillion icons on the first screen that I see. On top of that, they seem to have a gazillion functions and applications and other such things active all at the same time, all lined up at the top of the screen. On top of that, there is about a gazillion unread messages. And even as I'm looking at it, the phone is going absolutely crazy. Like, there's lights flashing everywhere, there's messages coming in, even as I'm looking at it. I don't even know where to begin with this device, where to search, so I click on the messages. And there are over a gazillion unread messages, as I said, so I decide to go to send messages. And the very first message that I see is about halfway down the screen. I begin to read the conversation that appears on the screen. The sender/murderer begins. They're going to take over. The responder replies, how? Sender replies, How else are things sorted in the forge? Who's got the bigger gun? Recipient responds, military? Question mark. Sender replies with, Nak Heng is swear word. Get on the right side of the incoming war. The recipient replies, and what side is that? And why Nak Heng? To this, there is no response from the sender, and the conversation ends, and I wouldn't think anything more of it. Of course, I'm not simply ignoring the fact that there was mention of an incoming war and military domination by some unknown entity. However, I feel the responsible thing to do here is to hand this information over to Ike, and then they can figure out how best to approach the situation and hopefully avert a war. I really don't think the best idea or the most responsible thing to do here is to jump in the middle without any context or any clue as to what is going on. Also, just a note, this information is on an incredibly messy and disorganized device owned by, I'm just gonna say, a rather careless murderer. So I'm gonna carry a healthy amount of skepticism about anything I find on this device without disregarding it completely, which would be equally foolish. Anyway, this is all just me rambling because the receiver of these messages, the responder to these messages, has been saved in the contacts of this device as Fish with a Sword. I look over my shoulder and two pink eyes stare back at me.